Kids with Doctors Brooke and Lynn. I'm Dr. Brooke.
And I'm Dr. Lynn. Welcome,
Hi,
everyone.
Dr. Lynn.
Hello, Dr.
I
Brooke.
hate that we're not in the same room
I
talking,
know. We're
but
usually sitting in front of that really warm and cozy fireplace
I
together.
know. I know, and I'm missing you. So this is exciting, you guys. If you're tuning in, and if you aren't yet, hopefully you will. We're starting something new. We're going to be going live and do live streams on YouTube um, on Thursdays around 1:30 Eastern time, so that you guys can interact live with us, and so that you can ask questions, and hopefully we can answer on the call. This is really just meant to be like sort of a friends chat, right? As if you're with your best girl having coffee or tea.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's what we do best. And I think that if you're listening, you kind of know that this is a weird transition in life, and just talking about it helps. And so that's what we're on here this week, is sort of to really break down, or every week at this time, like what's been going on in our life, what's been happening real time that's relevant, hopefully, to you guys in some way. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think that's an important thing. It is real time what's happening with us, because we just assume that we're all kind of in the same situation, right? We're all moms. We're all like midlife ish. Um, Most of our kids are either getting out of the house, or prepping somewhere in that stage. And so we find that there's like some common denominators with all of us, right?
yeah, we do. And we do assume that. But, there's so many comments and DMs that I get from, I check our social media a lot. And when you guys write to us, one of us is reading that. So just so you know, it's not a robot, it's not an assistant, it's us reading those questions and comments. So thank you so much for any of you that have taken time to send those. But so often I hear just, oh my gosh, I thought it was just me.
Yep.
And every time I hear that, I think I'm in the right time, I'm in the right place, I'm doing the right work, because we all need to feel like we're not alone.
So true. And how many times I've said and you've said and we've said together, like the first step is just knowing you're not alone, because it means like, A, there's nothing wrong with you. And B, like when we talk about these things and share tough things, like I'm going to share a little bit about what's going on with me this week. It lets us know that, again, you're not alone, but also like if I'm managing through, or
Yeah.
you're managing through, or however it is, whoever's listening will too. Like we're going to be okay.
Yes.
And
First,
so,
because I want to get into that, because
yeah.
and we'll share. So you and I work together, we're best friends for a long time. But when you have a business together, sometimes, and I know this with my husband, and 20 years working with him, you you have to try to keep the cylinders of both up, so so that you don't come home and find out that you're just like work partners, right? And in a marriage, it's easier to do that because we live under one roof. Well, you and I don't live anywhere near each other, in fact,
Right.
right? And so we've had some growing pains, and we're talking about that. That's not really the topic I don't think you want to get into today, but the point is this is this is real. I want to hear, as a friend, like
Oh,
what's been happening with you, and I know you're gonna get to share that. Before we do, though, there was Mitzi reached out, and she's been a long time listener and commenter. Mitzi, if you're listening, thank you so much for being with us and engaging as much as you do and asking great questions. She had a situation with her daughter where the daughter broke up with the person they thought was going to be her person for life. And I think it really sounded to me, I was reading between the lines, it not only rocked her daughter, but it kind of rocked her too.
mm.
And we have a whole long form podcast coming out, not this Sunday, but next.
Hold the phone on that.
Oh,
Because we're interviewing someone today. We
ooh,
might want to get her out in February. You and I have to chat about this. Again, this is live. If it's not this Sunday, not next Sunday, it'll be the next. So it's either
okay.
the very last Sunday of February or the very first Sunday of
Okay.
March. One of those two. Stay
Thank
tuned for
you.
that.
Yep.
Yes.
And keep in mind, that's a big improvement because it wasn't supposed to drop till May. So
Right.
we bumped it up quite a bit.
We're moving it up from Itzy.
Yep. Um, but and that was a great conversation. If I remember correctly, all of it, we have some good things in there. We can't get into all of it today, but what would be your big takeaways in helping navigate adult child's break up, Dr. Brooke, just off the cuff? What do you think is most important?
That's, I think that's a loaded question. I could go on and on because I've had firsthand experience with this relatively recently. So I think it depends a little bit on the kid's age, but we're talking about for the most part older kids here, and my kids are in college and one in high school, but the one I'm thinking of is in college. I think it's important to A, meet them where they are, and B, not minimize their feelings. C, also try to keep your feelings separate because me as a mama bear with a son, I was like, "Arr," and that's, you have to put that aside to some
Right.
extent. And also check yourself that like, people are allowed to break up with people. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make them a bad person. So and you can unpack that there because how is it handled? And there's a lot of different things that go into that. But those are probably my biggest things. And then you might also get to a point where you just have to get really firm with your child if they're really lamenting. And not that they shouldn't lament. I let this happen, for 2 weeks or so. And then finally I was like, okay, we gotta like, let's go. Let's get you in the gym. Let's like
Right.
stop feeling sorry for yourself. It's gonna hurt. My overarching line was like, it sucks. Your first love, it sucks when you get your heart broken. And it's gonna hurt every day when you wake up. But guess what? Every day you wake up, it's gonna hurt a little less, but you can't lay around and feel sorry for yourself. You've got to surround yourself with your friends, you've got to get to the gym, you got to move a lot of the things we tell ourselves apply is like sometimes, and this is kind of a good segue, you have to act the way you want to feel, act as if until your feelings catch up with your actions.
Awesome. That was great advice. And I think that's going to get you started, Mitzi, until you can listen to the full conversation on that. So, Dr. Brooke, let's come back to you. What's been going on
Yeah.
lately?
Well, I mean, without getting too much in, after the holiday, and I can have a tendency to do this anyway. I think a lot of us do because we released a podcast right after the holidays and we got a lot of response on that. That's like you're just reeling a little bit. Some of our social media posts too, women were responding like, "Oh my gosh, this is me," because you've had all this fun and excitement. The kids are there. It's like, "Oh, like celebrate." And then all of a sudden the kids leave again and things fall apart a little bit.
And it's cold out and there's
And
no daylight
for
and
most of us, all
there's
those other things. But and I think the other piece that we have to take into consideration, which I know is what happened with me, is a lot of things that we might do for self-care and to keep ourselves healthy. We have the tendency to let go during the holidays. A, because it's busy, and B, because we're living our best lives. Like at least me, I can skip, like I can have a drink that I wouldn't necessarily, have, or a second one, or I can let go of like my quiet time or my, you know what I'm saying, like the stress management because you're having fun, and then for me at least, it doesn't always catch up with you like the next day. It's usually like several weeks out. And I just wanted to address that because I've been very off, and I just want to encourage anybody that is right now in this moment of time. And I think this time, like season, time of year, is very common. That like if you are there too, just remember what I remind myself is like it doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. And like if I'm feeling that way, like feel a little better because I mean I do so many things and this to keep myself in check, to battle things like anxiety and stuff like that. So the point is like we all get down from time to time. We all hit roadblocks, we all hit setbacks, we all have days where we feel crummy, and that's okay. I think we need to acknowledge that, at least for me, acknowledge it, hold space for it. Don't feel like you have to shove it under the rug. And then also know that it's not just because it feels that way now doesn't mean it's going to feel that way like ongoing.
right.
And also there's a piece of like check in with yourself because are there things that you've let go or there lifestyle habits that you've picked up that aren't helping you? And I think a really important thing here is that your physical health is directly related to your emotional health. And so honestly, like it is real that like what you're eating, if you're eating garbage, you're likely to feel like garbage. And if you're already dealing with some emotional stuff, it's probably just going to make you feel worse. So that was loaded.
No, I think there's a lot in that. And I think the biggest thing my bells go off is just it's normal to feel and have those highs and lows. I mean, from a life perspective, I think there's beauty in those lows because if we didn't have the low lows, the high highs wouldn't feel so good, right?
Hmm.
Like life is just a series of contrasts. And as much as we don't like being there, it's in those moments that we're growing. where something is stretching in us. We're wrestling usually with something. And it's going through that allows us to come out on the other side a changed, more resilient person, right?
Yeah.
And I love your reminder to do the things, act as if, be that person, because sometimes like you said, our physical well-being is so attached to our emotional. So the things that we do physically really affect our emotions, and not just right away, which is why we don't always notice it, right? It's
Yeah.
like 3 days, 7 days, 2 weeks
Absolutely.
later, a month later. um, so that is really important, but I think that it's also in this stage of growing, also seeing the usefulness of those habits and that discipline that you have, that, but again, being not so being careful, it's not an outside in approach, because those are the things, those are tools that we use, but we are getting stronger and we
Right.
can withstand more than you think that we can withstand. So it's also seeing yourself as able to stand on your own, to go through some crap, I guess,
Yeah.
and be okay, you know?
Right.
At the same time, being really practical and smart and doing good things for yourself and self care.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a balance, because I think you're right. You can, at least I have fallen into the habit of relying on all of those things that I do, and sometimes you just have to do some inner work too and sit with what's going on, right? Not just try to mask it. And I'm sure that, like, that has caused me more problems than not, because I'm the person that just wants to, like, shove it under the rug and not sit with it, because it feels so uncomfortable, and B, I'm like nervous that I'm going to stay there. And I don't want to stay
Mm,
there. I want to be
yeah.
like a happy, fun, joyful person. But if you don't give yourself, so I will encourage you, if you have never seen the movie Inside Out, you need to
Oh,
watch it.
I've never seen it.
You have, and I watched it. Okay, so I'm gonna get
Everyone
really,
says
like,
how good it is.
and I haven't watched it recently. I'm gonna go back and watch it, but I'm gonna be like totally forthcoming here. I was talking to my therapist on Tuesday. And if you guys are struggling in any way, and I don't want to paint the picture of like I'm like really off the deep end, because I'm not. Therapy can be beneficial to anyone, and it could just be like some stress management stuff where you need to process things. And like me, I'm high in communication, so I need to talk things out loud. And sometimes I need it with an unbiased person that's not directly connected to me. So I can't say enough. It's only been, a couple weeks, but I can't, like, I highly recommend. Anyway, we were talking about how it's so easy to just take those feelings. We have this tendency to think our emotions are bad, and no emotion is bad.
Mm,
And like, it's okay to sit with it and feel it. And it doesn't mean that you're going to stay there either. But
yeah.
sometimes you have to sit with it and really feel it to get on the other side of it. So she showed me a little clip that I do recall seeing on Inside Out. You got to go watch it. And I could even maybe put it somewhere on our feed, because it was a little YouTube video that she screen shared with me because we were virtual. But this little elephant was like lost his thing over a cliff, and he was so upset, and like joy came over, like, because each of the people's personal have different personalities, and joy
Yep.
came over and was like, "Oh, just don't worry about it. Let's go have fun. Put a smile on your face." And she
Our
was making,
Enneagram sevens.
yeah, funny, exactly, funny faces at him, and like telling jokes, and he was just like that. And then sadness came over, and she's this little like blue girl, and she sat next to him and put her arm around him and was like, "That really stinks what happened."
Oh,
And the elephant was like, "Yeah, it really does." And she was like, "I'm really, really sorry about that." And it was just like a 30-second conversation where he cried and she was sitting with him. And then he was like, "Okay, what are we gonna go do now? Let's," and Joy came over and was like, "How did you do that to Sadness?" And Sadness was like, "Well, I just let him feel what he was feeling and talk about it." And I was like, because I don't, um I probably don't do that enough. And I have a husband that's like,
well,
"Get over it. You're fine. There's nothing wrong with you." So, you know what I mean?
so
So
well, and sometimes it's those
there's a
people do
balance.
that for us, and like you
E-
did for for your child, and you might do for your child who's
Exactly.
getting through a breakup.
Exactly.
Sometimes you just need to say, okay, it's time. But when you tell that story, what I think of, what like immediately stands out, is that every emotion has its time and place,
Exactly.
right? And like you can't, you can't feel joy unless you feel sadness. So he had to feel the sadness first to get to the joy.
Yes.
Right? Isn't that so profound?
And thank you for saying that so beautifully. That's what I was trying to get at. And I think that's important for us to acknowledge in this phase of life because the kids leaving can be, not all of us, but for a lot of us, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And if we don't allow ourselves to feel that and we just, self medicate or whatever we're doing with like
Yeah.
just trying to stifle it, that's not gonna,
Yeah.
in the long run, not gonna be a good
Yeah.
thing for you.
I think everybody feels it. And I think when we stifle it is because we don't know what to do with it. Right?
Yes.
It's not that we're afraid to feel it because we kind of like it is a loss, but we also know that hopefully, God willing, your child is right there somewhere, just not under your roof, right?
Yep.
Like it's not the same as other no loss is the same as each other, but
Sure.
it's an interesting type of loss is my point. So stay with me because I'm getting there. But and now I lost my train of thought. But my point is, yes, we don't. It's not that we don't want to feel it; is that if we don't know how to channel that feeling or what action to take that's like productive, then we just keep feeling. We feel like we're stuck, right? And then we feel it again, but then we're like, okay, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to stuff that down.
Yep.
So that's where we come in, right?
Yes.
Because it's the 4 pillars of everything we talk about. That's the action that you have to take to get through the rut,
Right.
to get to a place where you can proactively, productively move through that into something even better, you guys. Like there's something on the other side of sadness that's joy, right?
Yeah.
And that clip demonstrated. And how do you get there? And the number one thing that comes to my mind is just that purpose piece of finding something, knowing yourself a little better, knowing where you really shine, what your talents are, and finding something, even if it's not the most perfect thing in the whole world, it's something for right now in this moment that you can start on a path to doing, whether it's a hobby or a side hustle or a new career or taking care of a new family or a new person in your life, whatever it might be. There's so many examples of purpose that we talk about in our content, right?
Yep.
Finding that to dive into, because that helps your action, that helps you take action and feel like, okay, I'm gonna get through this rut and I'm gonna get on the other side.
Right. Yeah, I think it goes back to that. I mean, aside from finding purpose, because sometimes that can feel overwhelming too. But again, we talk about this a lot that purpose doesn't have to be a big thing. So hold space for that. And I think it's just that you said earlier, or one of us did, like act as if. So take that
Yes.
step to doing something productive or, sometimes helping somebody else out takes the focus off your own
Problems.
problems. Yeah. So,
And when we say act as if, for anyone who's listening that's confused, it's just take take make the step even if you don't feel like it. So it's doing what you need to do even when you don't feel like it, because it's this domino effect, right? So
yep.
that action makes you feel better, which the feelings make you hi London, hi
Yeah. Sorry.
Crystal.
UPS, aka
Yeah,
the serial killer, is
yeah,
here.
yeah, the person here to murder my mom.
Yeah.
um, and so it's the action, it's acting as if. So instead of waiting to feel like doing it, you do something, even though you don't feel like it, to start that cascade of emotion, cascade of feeling that propels you then to want to do more. Because that negative cycle and feeling getting down to a low, that is a domino effect as well,
Yeah.
right? Like you feel the feelings, so then you feel more, and then you do less, and all it sort of spirals you down. And then the positive cycle of that is the very same. You do one little thing, you don't wait for the feeling, you do it, and then the feeling comes, and then you get a little bit more momentum, a little bit more energy to continue to do more.
Yeah. So good. Thank you for that wisdom. I think this is a great place to wrap. A, because we're keeping this short for you guys, but B, because my dogs are going nuts and probably annoying everybody. So I hope you all start to tune in. If you have anything you want us to talk about, always write in. If we don't address it here on the live, we'll work it into our podcast lot of the podcasts that we've did just a couple weeks ago when you were in came from listeners, topics that they wanted us to broach, and turns out those have been some of our biggest podcast episodes. Go figure. So we are doing this for you, not for us. So let us know what you'd like to hear. And ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. The website is www.lifeafterkids.com. We've got lots of great free resources to help you through your life after kids over there. I hope you guys have a great day and an even better week.
You do that so well. Thanks for finishing us up. Have a great week.
Bye, ladies.
Bye, everyone. Okay.
All right. That was good. Sorry about the dogs at the end.